Alright, so with Captain America Brave New World that is finally here, and we have another entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that means we now have a total of 35 movies in the MCU in general. And now that we have them, it's time to rank them. This is going to be a tier list of every single MCU movie ranked from top to bottom. So that's what I'm doing for you guys in this video, is ranking all the MCU movies, so this should be a fun one as well. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future bits. But now, let's get into this tier list. With the tiers I have for here today is A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. Obviously, I had to include in here, but yeah, let's do this. Our first guy is Thor Ragnarok, which I really love this movie. It's my favorite in the MCU, and to that, I am putting this in A tier because it balances the character of Thor perfectly, especially the comedy and the action, especially between Thor and Loki. I really love that dynamic, and even though like we had Thor and Hulk fighting each other as gladiators, and introduced the Grand Master played by Jeff Goldblum. I love that character. He's hilarious by everything that I ever wanted, especially with what Taika Waititi attached with his directorial style and the way that that this movie wanted to balance everything, especially for what Thor is going through, especially with Asgard. And I really love it. It's my favorite MCU flick. And the next one is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I want to say this is going in B tier because even though some of the storyline which I liked a little bit, but I definitely loved the main thread of Namor, especially for what Wakanda was going through after losing T'Challa, and it paid a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman and his legacy, especially what Shuri and everyone was going through, especially with the Atlanteans' attack of Wakanda. It has great action sequences, great emotional storylines, and like everything that you want the feels for, and also it gave us Shuri as our new Black Panther, and I really love this type of like a movie and everything about this movie. It has all the emotions, some good storylines, and some good action as well, and I definitely love it. Next we got is the Avengers. Yeah, this is going right here. A for Avengers because it has iconic moments, iconic stuff. It definitely assembled the team for what it was, especially turning these 6 people into Earth's mightiest heroes that we all know and love. It just serves as a great MCU flick, especially the iconic Battle of New York between Loki and the Chitauri, and what the Avengers had to fight against. Great iconic shots, and it remains my favorite. Next we got is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and with that, yeah, I'm putting this in the middle of A tier because what a great way to close out this trilogy from James Gunn. He truly accomplished this so well, because especially with having Rocket's backstory being introduced, and High Evolutionary was a menacing villain, having especially with Adam Warlock played by Will Poulter being introduced, and what the Guardians are going through, and it's just like a great storyline that we got to see this family one last time before they go their separate ways off into the sunset, and a great send off to these characters, and it's just a well done moment, and it got me in tears, it got me in emotions, and it was the best MCU project since Endgame, and I really loved it ever since. The next we got is Guardians of Volume 2, another great MCU flick. Yeah, I'm putting this in the back of A tier because, and what a great follow-up, especially from the first Guardians movie, and it gave us more of the family dynamic between our Guardians, especially the introduction of Mantis, and it gave us more of the Gamora and Peter romantic stuff, and that dynamic with each other, getting introduced to Peter's father, and it's great, and also a great soundtrack for what James Gunn wanted to tackle with this movie, because even though throughout the entire Guardians trilogy he really steps it up with the soundtrack and great songs being introduced, I really love that movie as well. It has great moments, and I definitely love the dynamic between each other. Next guy is Avengers Age of Ultron, and to that, I wanted to say like right here in the back of B tier because not only is this a very good MCU movie, I like how it's like a super great follow-up to the first Avengers, but we get to see the Avengers more like a family, having Ultron being the main thread, and also it gave us Wanda and Quicksilver, Wanda and Pedro Maximoff, and it just gave us a really great storyline for what the Avengers are going through, and they act like more of like a family, and I just really loved it. It has great moments, especially with Wanda's manipulation powers, and just what the Avengers were really going through with their deep hardcore emotions. It's just a really great movie, and it has everything they ever want. I will always look back on this, and it's just a really great movie. The next one is Captain America: Civil War, and to that, I am putting this right here in the middle of A tier because this acts like Avengers 2.5, even though as a Captain America movie, but we have our main heroes fighting each other, especially with the Sokovia Accords being introduced and with the final battle between Steve and Tony, Captain America, and Iron Man are going up against each other. And it's just like a great, powerful storyline. It gave us the introduction of Spider-Man, by the way, in the MCU. I applaud Kevin Feige and Marvel for that, but it's just a great MCU flick of what they were fighting for. It's just a great movie, and it's the one that will always have great action sequences, specifically the airport battle and the way that everything is set up between our main heroes. Oh, it was like the fight of the decade with this movie, and it's just so perfect. Next we got is Deadpool and Wolverine, and to that, I'm putting this right here, another A tier movie, because not only is this the perfect MCU flick, but it's the ultimate superhero movie. Everything that we love about the genre in general, but everything that you love from the MCU, especially Hugh Jackman's return and his introduction to the Marvel universe. But what Marvel and the MCU were able to tackle with these characters is just that for what their purpose served in terms of with their storyline, with Wade's universe being like in high stakes. But like, even though it has those cameos, surprises, and all the galore and everything that we love from a comic book movie, this serves just that. And it's one I'll always look back on. An amazing opening sequence, and it pays a great tribute to all the old school Marvel characters. And I just love that movie so much. It's near me to my heart, and it will always remain a great MCU No Way Home, that type of event in general. I love it. It's a perfect 10 out of 10, no matter what anyone else says about it. Next we got is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and again, another A tier movie. I'm putting this in front because not only will this remain a top tier MCU movie for me, but talk about some great action sequences that make it perfect. Like I'm talking about the elevator fight, Steve chasing the Winter Soldier on the roof, Steve versus Bucky, and especially with a great opening sequence that really sets the stage for Steve, and it just tackles so many great storylines, and it's also a action-packed, fast-paced political thriller of what Nick Fury was going through. It's just another top-tier MCU movie for me, and this is the one that will always remain iconic. It's just a super great movie, and I think 2014 was a really great, iconic moment for the MCU at its peak, especially with this and Guardians Volume 1, I'm just saying. And others, so speaking of which, with Guardians Volume 1, another A tier movie, because not only was this a great introduction for the Guardians that went from being prisoners to instantly being fan favorites into being a family of what James Gunn wanted to tackle with their storylines with a tree and a raccoon, and everyone fell in love with them. It's just a great MCU flick. Next we got is Iron Man, and in fact, this is going, wow, so many A tier movies. I wanted to say that not only was this is a great introduction for the MCU, but also with Robert Downey Jr. and what he's able to portray with Iron Man, especially with those last 3 words that were said by the end of the movie. I am Iron Man, and not only did this change everything forever, but no one knew that this would be the start to what would become one of the greatest superhero franchises of all time, especially with Iron Man. I will always remember it. Next we got is Thor. I want to say, this is going in C tier because even though I really liked the introduction of Chris Hemsworth, his portrayal as the God of Thunder, and Loki as brothers and Asgard, and even though the visual effects don't really hold up, but I like Kenneth Branagh and his directorial style, and it's just like a great introduction to the character and for what it assembled the Avengers to be, and it's just like a good MCU flick. It also has good action, but hey, it's just a good movie as well. Next we got is Avengers: Infinity War. You know what? Yeah, I'm putting this in the front of A tier. Not only is this. Yeah, this is like not only the greatest Marvel movie of all time, but this was the ultimate event between this Infinity War and Endgame. But they were the ultimate hype machines, because especially with Thanos, that was the main threat, and with the character groupings that were handled so well by the Russo brothers, and with everything that this movie accomplished, it has so many iconic moments, especially with the Battle of Wakanda and also so many great action sequences going from one place to another. It really accomplishes everything. It's just a great MCU flick, and I will generally love it as heck. It will remain one of my favorite MCU flicks ever. Next we got is Iron Man 2, and which I thought this was a good follow-up to the first movie, and I want to say this is going in the back of C tier. Yeah, right next to Thor, because even though I found it to be a good MCU flick, it not only was it a good follow-up, but it gave us Whiplash as the main villain, Justin Hammer played by Sam Rockwell, the introduction of Rhodey played by Don Cheadle, and also the return of Pepper Potts, and it has some good action, especially with the final battle with War Machine and Iron Man fighting those robots that were made by Justin Hammer, and it has so many great moments. And also the one thing I really love, especially between the villain of the movie Whiplash and with those iconic suit up scenes from Iron Man, especially when Iron Man is suiting up on the race car track. It will always remain so clean. It's one of my favorite moments, and I definitely liked Iron Man 2. And yeah, that's all I say about it. Next we have up is Avengers Endgame. Again, I am putting this in A tier because it's especially with Infinity War and Endgame that will always remain at the top of my list. It's some of the greatest Marvel movies of all time, because Infinity War and Endgame, listen to me, they were the ultimate hype events during that time, because especially as those movies made it feel like events, because especially with Endgame that closed the era, a certain era from the MCU. It has great iconic moments, specifically the portal scene, and with that score, oh my gosh, it is the ultimate piece of cake, and it's just the cherry on top with the way that they wanted to tackle this, especially with time travel and Thanos and the Infinity Stones and everything that has been building up to for the past like over 10 years and counting with these movies and what they want to do. It's just like a really great movie and a perfect closure and a send off to our main Avengers as well. Next we have up is Ant-Man, and I want to say that this is going. I want to put it right here in the back of C tier, because even though I like the introduction of Scott Lang, portrayed by Paul Rudd, and going from being like a prisoner and to impress his family and to make his daughter happy, and I like the Ant-Man suit and Hank Pym, and also what Pym technology was tackling, and it's just like a feel-good, action-packed, delightful storyline from the MCU, and what Ant-Man's purpose was served, and I definitely liked it, but hey, it's a good time. Next we got is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I want to say this is going in D tier because even though it was a good movie, and I like the things I saw, but in terms of it was a messy storyline. Doctor Strange was sidelined and made Wanda the main threat, which I did not want it to be. But even though Wanda the Scarlet Witch was so good, it gave our introduction to America Chavez and everything about the multiverse being unfolded, going from one universe to another, being introduced to the Illuminati. But even though it delivered some good multiverse aspects, but Marvel did give a false hope and promise to the fans what they really wanted, and it just became sloppy. But I really like Doctor Strange and his storyline with Christine and what that set the stage for, especially I think we're getting the next movie or sometime soon. But anyways, it's just a good movie, but hey, it's not that great, but even though it has some good stuff in it. Next one is Captain America the First Avenger, and I want to say this is going in the middle of B tier because I really like the introduction of Steve Rogers in the MCU, portrayed by Chris Evans, with Red Skull as the main threat. And I definitely love Steve and Bucky's dynamic and their chemistry, and it's really well done and portrayed, especially with Peggy Carter being introduced as the love interest. And even that this is set during World War II, and with Steve becoming the super soldier of Captain America and fighting for his country, and also towards the end, that gave us so many emotional moments, including that main setup for the Avengers coming together in live action. So I really like what Steve's story is told there. But yeah, I really liked it. Next we got is Spider-Man Far From Home, and I want to say, yeah, this is going like in the back of C tier because even though I liked it, it was good. But even though it's not set in New York with Spider-Man putting on the suit, listening and answering to police scanners, but it was definitely a good style movie, but just not perfect. But it also gave us Mysterio played by Jake Gyllenhaal, which I thought was a great villain for the MCU, and with the way that he wanted to defeat Spider-Man, especially with Spider-Man suits, including with a Night Monkey. That was hilarious, especially as the multiverse was introduced in this movie, and it really ended Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and for what set the stage next for our main MCU's Peter Parker. And I liked how we were like in like a foreign country with in Italy, and for what Peter's struggles and his life were going through in terms of his identity with MJ. It's just a very good Spider-Man flick. Next one is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and I want to say I'm putting this again in C tier right here because even though I liked it, I liked the introduction of the quantum realm for what that unfolded, but it's just with the storyline, it has issues, it has flaws, especially with Kane the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, being introduced as this time-traveling, menacing villain who could basically take out any Avenger. Like, that was the storyline I liked, but even with the third act, and it really lost me because especially with the CGI, for how awful it was, especially for how they made MODOK, and I like the family dynamic, especially between Scott and Cassie, that they're the ultimate father and daughter dynamic. But other than that, and with the way that Marvel wanted to set up the direction of the MCU at that point in time, it was not that great. But even though I liked all the action sequences, it definitely had some good story elements, but it's just not that great of a movie. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. Next one is Captain America: Brave New World, the newly released MCU movie that is in theaters right now. I want to say I'm putting this in front of C tier because even though I liked it, it's a good, a decent, solid MCU flick. It was good, it was entertaining. I liked Sam Wilson's direction and his portrayal, carrying the mantle and responsibility as the new Captain America. And even with Harrison Ford, which I enjoyed, he carried the role a bit. He's iconic. And even with Danny Ramirez as a Joaquin Torres and his missions with Sam, and it tried to act like a fast-paced, action-packed political thriller, kind of like Winter Soldier, but nothing could ever top that. But didn't like how storylines were all over the place. It was kind of like a sequel to two different Marvel projects, and that's with the Incredible Hulk and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. By the way, it's just like all over the place, and especially between the third act and the way that they pictured it to be, it didn't really hit it. And I liked Red Hulk and what his battle between him and Captain America was like, but yeah, again, it's just like a solid, decent flick. Next we got is Black Widow. You know what? Yeah, I'm putting this in D tier because even though it was good, it has some good action and great storylines, especially between game with the introduction of Yelena Belova and Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, but it was just not that good of a movie. It came out like way too late at an unfortunate time in the midst of the pandemic, and it's just like it was not a great storyline, especially with Black Widow having her own solo movie. It definitely didn't work out great, especially with diving into Natasha's history of what she has. But other than that, it's just like a bad MC movie. But I wanted to like it, but yeah, it was sort of good. It was not that great. Next we got is Thor: The Dark World, and I want to say, yeah, this is going right back in D tier, in the back of Black Widow, because not only did Thor: The Dark World picture Thor as the character we don't want it to be, but it definitely didn't establish the good character arc for the character in general. We have like storylines that are all over the place, and it's slow paced, and it's not that great of a movie, but I definitely like Thor and Loki's dynamic and their chemistry, with Jane being the host of the realms. And it's just like an awful storyline which I'll never look back on. So mediocre, and it's just not that good. Next we got is Spider-Man: Homecoming. I gotta say, yeah, this is going in B tier because it serves as a brilliant coming-of-age story, especially for the MCU's Peter Parker, what his life is like at school, getting the girl, and Michael Keaton's a Vulture, one of the best MCU villains. He'll do anything for his family. It's just like a great storyline for what it wanted to tackle, especially what John Watts built up with this trilogy, especially with his mentor as Tony Stark. And I just genuinely love that coming of age vibes, what the MCU wanted to tackle, and it's just like a great style MCU flick with tons of Spidey action to go all around. Next guy is Eternals, and which I'm putting this in D tier because not only was it not that good, but I definitely like it was solid, but it gave us the introduction of 10 characters all at once because again, this should have been like a Disney Plus series, not a 2.5-hour movie. But even though we're not getting a sequel or for what's setting up for what's next, but even though it gave us a good storyline and backstory of each character arc, but it did serve some good action, just like from the MCU, but they wanted to try something new with introducing these characters, what they had to do, and their stuff like outside from the Infinity Saga of what they didn't have to do with the Celestials. But other than that, it was just not a good movie. But hey, it was a nice introduction to these characters, but something that I will never look back on. It was extremely boring as heck. Next we got is The Marvels. This is another C tier movie. I'm putting this right here aside from Far From Home. But even with The Marvels, which I wanted to like it, but it was good, but it has the formula that we've seen a bunch. I like the dynamic between Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Kamala Khan. And even with Uma Thurman that crushed it in the role. She definitely carries the movie, and I can't wait to see what project that actually she does next. But aside from the storyline, which I didn't care, especially with all the cat things or what the heck they're called, and also the villain was so weak. But even though I liked the action, it was just a cool, fun, dynamic, emotional movie, but it needed what I wanted to be. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. But hey, it teased future stuff, especially with the post-credit scene and other fun stuff. And also, aside from that, we have is Captain Marvel, in which I'm putting this right here in the back of D tier. Yeah, that feels appropriate because especially with the introduction of Carol Danvers in the MCU, and this came out at a time when Avengers Endgame was coming out, and this was a requirement that people wanted to see, and it cracked the $1 billion club. But it was just not a great storyline, especially with Nick Fury and the introduction of the Skrulls. And it had some good action, it had some good storylines, especially with Monica Rambeau as a child. But other than that, it's just not a great movie. But it was good. It had some good stuff going on there. But other than that, I just didn't really like it. Next we got is Thor: Love and Thunder. I wanted to say, man, this is tough. Yeah, this is going in F tier because not only was this was such a bad movie, but didn't really solidify the character arc of Thor like we wanted it to be, because it's basically a mess. Because even though it had Guns N' Roses in the marketing with having those heartfelt moments with Gore the God Butcher being the main threat, but basically it was awful with the way. I didn't like how Thor was set out to be, and the script and the writing was sloppy, and I did like all the action, but it was just like a fun, delightful, emotional action flick. Where the God Butcher was awful, the way that he set out to be, he was so weak, played by Christian Bale, and it gave Jane Powers, but it's just just not a great movie. I'm sorry, but this is just such a bad movie. I mean, I didn't like Love and Thunder. But anyways, moving on to The Incredible Hulk. And I wanted to say another F-tier movie because even though I liked The Incredible... Yeah, this is saying an F-tier because with The Incredible Hulk, which is a movie that I won't look back on even though it's a Universal property, and it gave us the Hulk that we always wanted it to be in the MCU, but until Disney did things with the Hulk that we were not expected to. But I definitely like this version of Hulk a lot better when he's introduced in the MCU, played by Edward Norton, and with Thunderbolt Ross, played by William Hurt, who isn't here, R.I.P. But it definitely gave us some good action, and Betty Ross, and especially with the final showdown between Hulk versus Abomination, it was definitely a great battle that will always be highlighted. But other than that, it's just like a stinger of a flick. But it gave us some great Hulk action, and this is the Hulk that I really loved from the MCU. Next we got is Black Panther, and I want to say this is going right here in C tier because with Wakanda being introduced, Black Panther, T'Challa, yeah, it's just a really good storyline of the way that they wanted to establish Wakanda, and it's just a really good fitting storyline. Killmonger, who I thought was a great villain and taking on the Wakandans, and with the final battle that happens. And I wanted to say it was a really good style flick. I just really love every bit of that dynamic. Next we got is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I want to say this is going another C tier movie. Actually, I want to move it right here. Yeah, right here, because even though I liked the follow up to the first movie, it's just a delightful family flick filled with good action, and especially with the quantum realm that was introduced in the third act. But it definitely serves as a history for the Pym family, with Scott Lang of what his character was going through, and when Lawrence Fishburne was introduced, and it's just like a good movie. And also with that end credit scene that set up everything for Endgame, it was a piece of cake. But other than that, it was just a good movie, but simply not that great. Next we got is Spider-Man No Way Home, and to me, yeah, this is going in A tier because this is the definitive Spider-Man movie, and it gave us 3 live-action Spider-Man on the big screen with Tobey, Tom, and Andrew, and it was a great celebration for the web slinger in general. It has great action and it brought back everyone from this universe, and it's something that I will always cherish forever for a Spider-Man movie like this. Next we got is Iron Man 3. And to me, like, even though people describe this like, oh, Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie, and to me, I agree with that. But, and I want to say, this is like, I'll put this in like D tier because even though it's not a bad movie, it's just that like, without Iron Man in his armor, and with Harley Keener being introduced, played by Ty Simpkins, but it's just like something that, I had like some weak storylines, and it's just like not that good of a flick. And you know, I like the Christmas elements being added, but it's just like a weak story to Tony's character and his arc, what he was going through. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Next we got is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and to me, this is another A tier movie because I definitely like Shang-Chi and his portrayal of what his character was set out to be, and having this character as the first Asian superhero being in this world for the first time, especially from the atmosphere, the score, especially with the third act has some of the best visual effects I have ever seen put in the Marvel universe. It is such a great accomplishment. And people were wondering if this was going to be a win for the MCU, and it was also a great introduction to Shang-Chi in the MCU. And why don't we have a sequel? Why are we having a sequel of Marvel? And what are we doing? We need Shang-Chi too. But I like the introduction of Shang-Chi in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just like a great story arc for the character. I loved it. And lastly, we have is Doctor Strange from 2016. I want to say that this is like a feature movie. I want to right here because with the introduction of the Sorcerer Supreme in the MCU, and with Stephen Strange played by Benedict Cumberbatch, it's just like a great storyline for what it set the stage for, and also like the Ancient One, and when especially when Mads Mikkelsen as the main villain, and also Scott Derrickson and his vision for it kind of felt like horror and thrilling aspect to it, and I definitely liked what he accomplished. And it's just like a great storyline for Stephen Strange and setting him in the Marvel broader cinematic universe. And so this is my tier list. So yeah, that does it for this tier list ranking, and aside from all the good and bad movies that were on here on this tier list, and even with the broader Marvel universe right now, I specifically enjoyed, and this is where we are heading right now. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what your thoughts on my ranking, especially for my tier list, and how would you rank all of the MCU movies from worst to best, especially in this tier list. Just let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and turn on notifications for future videos, and you can also follow all my social medias over linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.